Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm sitting here with my friend Kenneth Carnes, who's the CISO for NYPA. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great today.
Came down from White Plains.
Yes, sir. It was a good trip.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we're going to learn all about OT security.
Oh, you bet. CISO at New York Power Authority. I've always been in the public power space. I started out in nuclear generation, and then in the operational technology side, and then moved over to information technology through the years. And really, now my job is to make sure that we're securing our critical infrastructure for the people in New York. It's a great job.
And you moved here from Nebraska.
I did.
Cornhusker land,
yeah.
Right? That's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. Spent a long time out there, but that's where the two nukes were that I worked at back in the day.
Well, we're glad to have you here as our neighbor. Now, everybody talks about, I think that's right, everybody talks about OT security now. It's a big topic.
Big topic.
And there's a lot of people who worry about potential cyber threats to infrastructure.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like when people stop you at a cocktail party and say, oh, I know you protect power. What are the issues? Like, do you think there are some real threats, or what's the right way to think about the problem?
I think people miss the fact that the threats really do exist, and that they're out there hunting for ways to cause impact in every industry, whether it's transportation, telecom, or power. And so really it's understanding those threats and how they're impacting us and how they're targeting. And then when you come down to the tax of it on the cyber and electric power side, we're kind of ahead of the game a little bit by the fact that we've had the NERC regulations, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation regulations for the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
And those, put a lot of cyber controls, the basis, all the standard cyber hygiene stuff in place. So I'd say honestly on the electric side, I'm not near as concerned as I would be like water, gas, and some of those things, right? I think there's bigger operational technology challenges for them. So if you look at electric power, most of our systems, especially on the bulk electric side, the really big stuff that NYPA operates, it's all secured, right? We got fence lines, we've got properties, we've got all this.
Yeah, tell me if I'm saying this right. I always think of it as IT infrastructure, then some gateway, and then OT, more proprietary or special protocols and systems. Is that true?
Yeah.
And if so, is it kind of going away and everything going IT?
It's very true.
It is true.
But it's also kind of blending away, especially as you go out to the distribution side of our industry, 69,000 volts and below into your neighborhoods and stuff. As you're looking at these distributed energy resources like solar and wind and batteries and things like that, you have more and more players in the market in that space. So you're getting more of the traditional IT touch points scattered throughout the system.
Like a Windows or Linux system built into some OT
Yeah, kind of like a building management system.
Would have been proprietary before.
Yeah, and those are becoming much more open source and available and standardized and things like that. But on the back end electric side, there's big vendors and big systems, but there's a lot of very specified protocols. But think back, like ARPANET back in the day and things like that.
Right.
The protocols weren't designed to be secure.
No.
So it's much harder to secure those because you got to lay those boundaries of defense in place in front of them to keep anybody out of them, because if you're in, it's hard to stop, right?
It just seems like as those things go in-band to the internet, that you get this image of like some hacker just running, scanning or whatever, and finding equipment, like critical infrastructure equipment. Is that science fiction, or can you find that stuff running a scanner?
Well, if you've heard of Shodan, you can find lots of things.
I guess I'm leading the witness here. I know some of the answers here, but I want to hear it. You're the expert.
No, that's really good. I'd say that, on the business side and then the smaller businesses and entities like that, you're going to find stuff, especially people that are unaware, especially as they continue to put, I like to use that term, the industrial Internet of Things now, the IoT.
That is a good reference.
Because you're getting it distributed into places where people aren't looking for it to be IT. They aren't looking for the security in that. They're just like, oh, I got this really cool device and it does this and I want to integrate it.
Yeah.
And they aren't thinking of how that could actually be used as an attack or in a vector to basically get a foothold to move laterally through the systems, right? And get where I really want, which is disruption or data or otherwise.
Is an insider still the best way to go after infrastructure, like a planted or disgruntled kind of embedded? Because it is complicated stuff you deal with.
It is.
You don't come out of school and understand how these weird PLCs and things work, or SCADA.
Yeah.
You don't know that. But if you work there, you do.
Yes.
Is that the real threat?
I think that's the hardest challenge that people don't understand is how different yet the operational technology side is from IT.
Yeah.
The depth of knowledge, the specificity of that knowledge, and things like that are quite a bit different yet. And their focus is different, right? I mean, on a business cyber side, you want to, reduce the risk and prevent. On the operations side, it's operations. If they fail on that side, on any availability side, you're going to have impact.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that everything is always focused to securing, but in no way disruptive to that operational base that you have every day. So
let's talk about the other OT stuff. Outside electric power, you recommended that there were a few areas that were further behind. What should they do? Like, is it recruiting more computer scientists? Is it training? Is it ISACs? How do we solve the problem? Let's say you were the cyber czar and the president says, hey, what do I do? Well, what would you do?
I think we got to continue the education train, right? We got to keep people talking about, hey, basis of here's good cyber hygiene, here's all these things, but we got to start to look at defenses differently, personally. If you look at the stack of vulnerabilities that you face every day, most of them you're just chasing your tail, and most of them actually aren't that big of risk to your environment. So, moving out to the ends of, okay, I mean, I've got it from a user perspective. I can tell if there's any impact at all in the function of the service or the delivery of that service. And I've got all the way down to the very lowest level, and in our case, maybe even below operational pre-digital. So, on the analog signals, or even just better cyber controls throughout. I love the MITRE ATT&CK model.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's fantastic to get that visibility and operate in that mode that it's not the if, it's the when. And I'm going to have that visibility to disrupt, detect, and interrupt any attack or infiltration that could be possible.
Makes sense.
And so we're definitely building for us right now, we're building a security control implementation strategy. That's what I call it, a SCIS from my old nuclear days. But basically, that is the basis that we're building of what are our common controls for the MITRE ATT&CK model throughout our environment, especially down on the operational side, so that we can see those things operating or moving in the environment in any way at any time.
Makes sense.
So yeah, it's definitely a fun area to, think differently. I mean, we're going to do all the things we have to do for regular hygiene and vulnerability management and that. But I mean, honestly, you waste a lot of effort and time. And if you can move out to those ends, I think you can do a lot more.
Does your sector run a lot of robots now? Do you have robots working in the, in the bowels of power? And I don't mean in the like the way you'd see on TV, some goofy robot, but like autonomous equipment that, accomplishes tasks mechanically. You must have that.
There's a lot of automated systems that are pre-designed and built, and then they intercommunicate, PMUs, and the acronym's falling out of my head, the phaser units, things like that, and how we manage our environment as a whole and the grid balance and the New York ISO, the independent system operator here. There's a lot of information sharing happening there, where we're really trying to balance, the grid, because every time somebody adds power, you have to pick that up somewhere, right? Or you lose power, you got to pull that power back. So the grid's in a constant flux of trying to maintain that balance, and so that's where you hear, the hot days, we may have to do something special or manage the load differently, and it's a huge partnership in the electric utility space that we're not operating on our own. We're all here for the power that you all get, and it's a partnership between us and all of our private entities and others in our region.
Do you worry about like robots, autonomous robots, and the cybersecurity issues that emerge with equipment that's autonomous?
Yeah, I think for us the challenge is that until you've tried and trued the answer and know that it's really going to function the way you expect, you're going to be a little more slow to adopt it into the environment. However, I think the machine...
Which I'm glad. I like you guys to be safe.
But I think the machine type, machine versus man, will be an interesting discussion long term. And I think you'll see a lot more automation, AI, and things like that in putting more context to the security stuff that we already have in place, controls and data and things like that, and really building that better basis of intelligence so the human can make better intelligent decisions with that information.
I would think the manufacturers need to get a little bit more with it. It seems like for the last 20 years, it wasn't an important consideration if you're building equipment for, say, any industrial control environment to have cybersecurity hooks. Like,
Yeah.
who buys a hunk of industrial control equipment with a predefined connector to your SIM?
Right.
There's no such thing.
Right.
But that, I would think that would be like a functional requirement. I mean, if I was buying, some control equipment for nuclear or whatever, why not? Hey, listen,
Yeah.
you're running an operating system in there. Put something in my ARC site, or my Splunk would like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Is that where we're headed, like with these things?
Absolutely. We're
writing
integrating
cyber requirements?
Well, and there's a lot of special ways, with taps and utility tools and things that are out there to actually get a lot more of that asset information and configuration information. The nice thing about OT, the environment doesn't change much or very fast. So it's pretty easy to put a lot of very finite technical controls in place and detect if something's out of whack.
That's good.
So, it's really nice to be able to bury down on that level, but we're working on pulling that information up into our business operations functions from an alerting standpoint. And that way we're able to provide corporate cyber services for all of our business. So we're integrating those in our new integrated smart operations center at NYPA. And that is where we've combined cyber, physical, emergency management, asset health, and trying to pull all these different teams in kind of a fusion center type model. And we're standardizing all of our notification escalation processes, all of our, response processes. Favorite is, hey, you got a network problem, the NOC team looks here, SOC team turns their head and looks the other way automatically because they've trained for that. They know, oh, is it cyber? And they're asking those questions. So, and we've also made some changes last year with our organizational structure, and we combined our SOC NOC and also our operational functions under me, and added a deputy CISO to kind of really focus cyber as a bake-in instead of as just a risk model.
That SOC NOC integration is a good idea.
Yeah.
Huh? That save you some time.
Yeah, it's efficiency-wise, it's great. Communications and standards-wise, and also just the idea that why are we trying to replicate really the same base services, with different teams?
Totally for it. Hey, you going to keep us nice and safe? You're going to keep doing a good job?
Yes, sir.
You bet. We rely on you guys to do. You're such an upbeat guy. When you're like a nuclear scientist, you always have this image of like walking around carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. But you obviously know what you're doing, and I appreciate all the great work you do.
No, thank you.
Well, keep doing it. Keep us safe, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. And we'll see you next time.